Tell me about the knives. Where did you get them?
I got them from the dishwasher.
What kind of knives?
Big sharp ones.
And what do you want to do with those knives?
Kill John and Mommy with them, and Daddy.
Every moment a child experiences can leave a mark on them that can last a lifetime, and there's never been a better example of this than Beth Thomas, the child of rage. Beth was born in 1985, and by the turn of the decade, she'd already proven herself to be one of the most dangerous and frightening children the world had ever seen. Due to the loss of her mother at just 1 year old, neglect from her parents, and most sickeningly, physical and sexual abuse from her father, the girl had turned into a child psychopath. This is the story of Beth Thomas, the most evil 6-year-old in history. Beth was routinely abused until she was 19 months old. It only stopped when the abuse was eventually discovered. And Beth and her brother were adopted by a Christian couple named Tim and Julie Tennant. But while Beth may have just been saved from her nightmare, the Tennants had only just begun. Her new parents weren't originally told about the abuse the poor girl had gone through, but it would not take long for them to become fully aware of the horrific extent of her suffering. Beth began to have nightmares every night that concerned her parents, but it was the contents of the nightmares that really disturbed them. She told them that in her dreams, a man would fall on top of her and hurt her with a part of him to the point where she would burst into tears. While this set her parents on edge, it didn't prompt them to take any action with Beth. But that all changed when her behavior began to take a turn for the worse. Beth didn't appear to have a conscience or any idea of right and wrong. She had no morals and showed a complete lack of empathy, all of which would come to surface when her parents made a ghastly discovery. She was seen hurting and killing her pets, and at one point even strangled a nest of baby birds to death. But most shockingly, on multiple occasions, she had tried to take her younger brother's life. In one example, Beth had pushed the boy down the basement stairs and began repeatedly smashing his head on the hard cement floor. By all accounts, the girl was turning into a fully fledged psychopath at just 6 years old. The final straw for the Tennants is when they caught her red-handed, physically and sexually abusing her brother. She was found kicking and attacking her brother's private area, attempting to rip parts of him off, and thrusting herself inside of him. All of this while she was just still a toddler. Her parents quickly decided it was time to act and elected to take her to a psychologist specializing in sexually abused children named Dr. Ken Majid. During their time together, he discovered some truly terrifying things about the girl, including how she planned to murder her brother and her parents, but most importantly, the reasons behind her horrifying behavior. Dr. Majid believed this case to be one of the most disturbing he'd ever witnessed, and shortly after he began sessions with Beth, he recorded an interview with her that would be fully publicized and would go on to shock millions of viewers around the world. The tape was intended to show how devastating the effects of abuse can be on young children, but also that victims can be helped and go on to live better lives. However, this does not change the fact that the contents of this interview are extremely disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised.
Do you ever stick pins in people? Who?
My brother.
Okay. Do you do it a little bit or a lot?
A lot.
Okay. And what are you trying to do to your brother?
Kill him.
Why do you want your brother to die?
Because I was hurt so bad, and I don't want to be around people.
Shortly into her time in therapy, Beth was diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder, also referred to as RAD. RAD is a mental disorder that around 1 to 2% of children are affected by, but at varying degrees of severity. Usually, it stems from when children are ignored and neglected by their parents. It can occur if their parents or caregivers change over time, or if they're left alone without touch for hours or days at a time. Usually, children with RAD seem more distant than most children. They may dislike touch, resist hugs, and show complete strangers more affection than they do their parents. It's also important to remember that not all children with RAD will harm and kill animals in the same way Beth did. Hers is a very severe case, likely amplified by the abuse she endured during her childhood.
Who else would you like to stick pins into?
Mommy and Daddy.
What would you like to have happen to them?
Die.
Tell me about your birth father. What was that nightmare like?
When he touched my vaginas
Okay.
until it bled, hurt it a lot until it bled. He'd hit on me and be very nice to me.
How old were you?
1.
And in your nightmare, what happens?
I get real scared.
Where are you in the nightmare? What happens in the dream?
I'm in the house, upstairs. When he comes upstairs and hurts,
How do you feel when you talk about this?
scared.
Throughout this tape, it becomes obvious that Beth isn't a psychopath as her actions and the media at the time placed her as. She's just a scared little girl that had endured possibly the worst early years a child could have. Her mother died, her father was sexually abusive, and she was left without food for days at a time. This trauma and sadness becomes even more evident as the interview progresses.
Where's your birth father? What's he doing?
He's right there, and there's his hand. His hand's right there.
Where?
Right there. You can't hardly see it because it's green.
What's it touching?
My vaginas.
And what is your birth father doing?
Hurting it.
Your face looks sad. Can you tell me about that?
It's crying because there's dots of the tears.
Does your brother have private parts?
Yeah.
And what do you do with your brother, with his private parts, Beth?
I heard it.
Tell me about it. What do you do?
Now, I pinch it, squeeze it, kick it.
When you do things to your brother's private parts, what does he say?
Stop.
Okay, tell me that.
Well, he says stop, but I don't stop.
Do you hurt him?
A lot.
Okay. And would you like to do that to other boys?
Psychopathy and RAD are two very different things. The majority of psychopaths will usually appear similar to each other and exhibit the same symptoms, such as a tendency to lie, manipulate others, and a difficulty to show remorse or empathy. This is different to RAD because each case can vary greatly. Some kids will struggle connecting with people or have difficulties showing and receiving love. Some will dislike touch, and some can even lack emotion completely, but each child will react differently. However, in certain cases, such as Beth's, they can also appear violent, especially if they were victims of physical or sexual abuse. But Beth's case was very severe, and unfortunately led to her hurting much more than just her brother.
Do you have animals, Beth?
4 of them.
Can you tell me their names?
Clyde, Shuggy, Darcy, and Annie. And Daddy said a day ago that there was a stray cat who did not have a home, so Daddy was taking care of it and took it to the vet when he had his flight to go.
And what do you do to the animals, Beth?
Stick them with pins.
Do you stick them a little bit or a lot?
A lot.
What are you trying to do to the animals, Beth?
Kill them.
Let's talk about what happened once when you were smaller, when you found some baby birds in a tree. What did you do then?
I took them out.
And what did you do with them?
Played around too rough. Also, when at the end, I picked it up and I thought it was Dad, and I came to say, "Mommy, is this bird dead?" I think I remember that they said yes.
Mm-hmm. So did the little baby birds die?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I just remember that I remember that Mommy and Daddy said the last bird we got was dead.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what Mom said to me? She said that all of them were dead. Did you squeeze them? Did Baby Beth squeeze them? You're doing a good job, honey. Go ahead and tell me what happened.
I squeezed them.
And what happened?
They died.
A violent nature and a habit of hurting things wasn't the only issue that Beth had, though, as later in the interview, she showed that she also had a complete inability to understand what was appropriate or not.
Have you ever rubbed your private parts?
Mm-hmm.
Do you do it a lot?
A lot.
How much do you do that?
About every single day, and that's into. I did it every single day until it got well bad and messed up, and I had to go to the doctor, and I did not like it.
What do you mean by real bad?
Well, it looked real raw, got all kinds of boo-boos on it, germs, a lot of stuff from my hand.
And it bled?
Mm-hmm.
In another interview with her mother, she spoke of multiple times where Beth would begin to masturbate in public. One such case was when they were waiting in the car for Tim to leave the hospital, and Julie turned around to see Beth masturbating in the back seat next to John, as if it was a completely normal thing to do. While Julie tried to talk it out and tell her that they're in a public parking lot and private activities shouldn't be done in places like this, she was completely unfazed and found it difficult to understand what her mother meant. Over time, Beth would become even more and more violent and eventually began to make threats to her parents, saying she was going to stab them at nighttime while they slept. This left the couple with no other choice than to barricade her in her own room overnight just to protect their own safety. But everything would come to a climax one afternoon when her mother made a horrifying discovery in the kitchen.
Tell me about the knives. Where did you get them?
From the drawer.
And where else? Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about it.
I got them from the dishwasher.
What kind of knives?
Big sharp ones.
And what do you want to do with those knives?
Kill John and Mommy with them, and Daddy.
And when Mommy asks you about where the knives are, what do you say?
I don't know where they are.
The tenants now had a violent, unpredictable child hiding weapons from them, living within their own home. And the worst part was, they knew what she was planning to do with them.
What did you think she might do with the knives?
My first thought was Jonathan.
And the reason we thought that was that by this time, she had tried to kill John on several occasions and openly admitted that.
In the basement, she was hitting his head against a cement floor. I heard his screams and ran down and had to literally pull her hands off, and she looked wild-eyed.
After spending enough time with Beth and evaluating her problems, Dr. Madgen eventually decided that for the safety and well-being of everybody in the family, Beth should be separated from them and should spend some time at a home specializing in helping children with early attachment disorders, especially those who are dangerous to those around them.
We're very strict about everything. Everything is completely monitored. We take complete control because a child who's unattached does not trust. And because they don't trust, they don't allow anybody to be boss of them. So we take complete control. They are not boss of anything. They have to ask to get a drink of water. They have to ask to go to the bathroom. They have to ask to leave our sight. Part of that is because we cannot trust them because of the damage that they've done before. They believe that they're evil. They believe they're from the devil. They believe that they are not a person of value. And we have to change that. We have to build that from a child who's nothing, who's a bad kid in their own mind, to a child who's valuable and loving, and they see themselves as that.
The home she stayed at tried to build Beth's trust in herself and raise her confidence by showing love to her and convincing her that she, at heart, is a genuinely good and normal human being. They would use words of affirmation and build her self-esteem slowly to eventually change the way she saw herself, hopefully breaking her out of the mental prison that she'd built for herself during the first years of her life. And just a few months in, Beth had already begun to show improvement. She was making friends with the other kids, singing in local choirs, responding well to affection, and most importantly, she was beginning to develop a sense of right and wrong.
Through the years you made it clear that the time of Christ was near, so the people couldn't see what Messiah ought to be. So your word contained the plan.
She sleeps in the same room with my own daughter, and I trust her that much. She brushes the dogs, and I trust her that much. Because she has earned that trust. She's learned it. She has a heart, and she has a love inside, and she feels bad when she does something now. In the past, because she didn't have a conscience, she didn't feel anything when she did something bad. There was just no feeling there. And now she does feel bad, and it shows in her face.
Beth had completely changed. She was feeling again, people trusted her, and most importantly, she could trust herself. In a final, heart-wrenching interview with her towards the end of the process, we were able to truly see the improvement that she had made.
Do you know where that anger came from?
That's when my birth dad hurt me. I had it all inside, and I remembered it, and I started doing it.
And what did that do when it was inside?
It made me want to hurt people really bad.
And who did you hurt?
My brother, my mom and dad, and animals. And animals.
Who did it hurt the most?
My brother.
Who did it hurt the most?
Me.
Why don't you tell me that?
It hurt me the most.
How did it hurt you the most?
Because when I hurt other people, I'm hurting my good self.
How do you feel right now, Beth?
Bad.
It's kind of tough to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
Now, Beth is a fully recovered, loving, normal woman. She works as a nurse and has written a book describing her experiences as that troubled child and about her road to recovery. She also runs a business designed to help and give support to children suffering from reactive attachment disorder. The story of Beth Thomas is a terrifying yet touching one, and it's a glaring example of how important it is for a child to have loving, nurturing people around them. Without the concern and unconditional love her adopted parents showed her, the calm and caring way of Dr. Magin helped her, and the transformative experience she had in recovery, Beth would likely have ended up in a very different place in her life, just the same as far too many neglected children do to this day.